Well, would you look at that art? Frigganfraggle slash Dirty Doozer's getting so fast that I didn't even have a chance to start the game yet. Hopefully, the things that he's holding don't say anything embarrassing. I won't be able to check for a while. Or even know if the symbols are from the game or not. So this will be interesting. We're going to play Heaven's Vault. I've been looking forward to playing this game for a while. I've been consistently getting some kind of buzz that it's like this cult classic game that people are getting really attached to. Climb the stone staircase more ancient than the mind can imagine. Find the cornerstone and under it, the copper box that is marked with his name. Unlock it. Open the lid. Take out the tablet of lapis lazuli. Read. The Epic of Gilgamesh, 1300 BC. Ah ha ha! Okay, I see what you're doing here. So I've been hearing about this game for a while, but I haven't looked any further into it or seen much about it. But I keep hearing a buzz that implies that it might be like one of the best puzzle games that's come out in the last few years. Although I might have waited long enough now that I might be late to the last few years part of that sentence being true anymore. I forget now. I keep not getting quite around to it. What I do know is that this is a game about language, and specifically like lost languages and the stories that go with them. So it's actually really profound that this game opens with a quote from the Epic of Gilgamesh, because from what I understand, the Epic of Gilgamesh is a story in a language that seemed lost, that we didn't have I gotta turn this down, this music got really loud. I'm not the best historian here, but I believe that this is like the oldest story known to man that was like written and translated and salvaged. It was like a bunch of broken pieces of pottery, and they kept slowly discovering more of it and being able to translate more of it. And so this forgotten story from a forgotten language slowly came back into understanding and was salvaged and maintained and translated for whatever extent to which it exists. In fact, the timing here is kind of impressive, because I think that this might be like one of Overly Sarcastic Productions' most recent videos is about Epic of Gilgamesh. So I realize I'm just repeating stuff that I heard from there, but having the timing of that video being recent when I'm about to play the game and this quote comes up is funny. But I believe that the story itself is about stories being lost to time and so on. So there's like internal resonance there, and then having it come up in this game that has this kind of gameplay is going to be interesting. Let's find out exactly what kind of gameplay that is. Let's give ourselves a little speech priority. $50 hertz. There we go. Yeah, that was some loud music. After trying my hand at Tunic, I'm definitely a little intimidated by the idea of a language-based puzzle game.
Stories don't have tidy beginnings. The past is always present. But there has to be a spark. Something that brings the past to light.
Please climb carefully. Oh, the robot said that. Okay. Careful you don't roll backwards. It was fading, so I think there might have been a time limit. I can't tell who's talking because they're both over each other. A long way. Down. Take a moment to rest before you walk, mistress, please. Yeah, they were packed closely enough together that I couldn't tell which one was speaking. Let's turn the text speed down a bit for our own sake. How's this working? WASD. Technically. This is the summit. This is as far as the path goes. Maybe I'm sitting here to wait until my bar finishes replenishing while we're... Okay, now I can walk. She was only moving one step at a time for a bit there, and I was getting nervous. So we have like a 2.5D art style where these characters are 2D model, or they're 2D sprites, it looks like. Which is why they take sharp turns. A bricked up opening. A bricked up opening. There is something here. To keep people out, do you think? Or to keep something in? Something written here. Ancient script. This must have been cut in when the mortar was still wet. But I think I can read it. Yeah, easy. Heaven's Vault. Alright, let's turn on a controller, because the keyboard and mouse controls are kind of strange. It seems designed for a controller. So I'll just switch that on. Once I saw that the mouse just makes the screen wobble a bit, I'm like, uh-oh. Some weeks earlier at the University of Iox? Lox? I think it's an I.
My story begins on Iox. That was where I met the robot.
Mistress Aliya. Mistress Aliya Elasra. I have been waiting for you. I have been asked to escort you to Professor Miyari. She is very anxious for your arrival. Professor Miyari wants me back on Iox earlier today. What? And who are you? I am a robot, mistress. As is apparent. This way. Okay, it looks like all dialogue options fade away after a moment, which... I don't know why this features in most games, honestly, but I guess we'll just have to commit. There must be like another choice that happens if you don't pick anything. Like the lack of response, but I'm gonna have to I'm not gonna be pausing to discuss thoughts unless I pause physically, because I have to rush through the conversation to keep up with it. You have a name, robot. Is that intended to be a joke, mistress? No. Robots do not have names. We are, as I understand it, interchangeable. I've known a few robots. They're all a little different. How kind of you to say so, mistress. So why has she sent you? Did you do something wrong? That seems unlikely. My ethical core protects me from serious error. This way. You should know what the professor's urgency is remarkable. Look at her. She looks like a tiger in a cage. A most curious analogy, mistress. You understand, I will be required to report it. Reply question mark? Required to? Of course. Professor Miari is my primary user, mistress. Nevertheless, I will try to sugarcoat your opinion. Oh, she was talking about... I thought she was looking at something in the environment. She was looking at Miari in the window over there and commenting on her appearance. Oh, I didn't read that. I didn't register that correctly. At one point, it just said on the bottom, reply question mark and reply ... That's interesting. There's some interpretation going on just in the very use of language in this game itself, and the very act of chasing meaning and what people are saying is a bit of a struggle. Even down to like the camera cutting to different angles and therefore making you have to search for the dialogue in real time, even though it's going to go away soon. Which I'm not necessarily saying that's like some deep, like, ludonarrative choice they're making, but it is funny that the act of following conversations in the modern day is itself a little bit of a challenge in a way that seemingly the game would always be. Interesting that the text on that door we saw in the prologue is in the logo itself, so whatever it says is probably significant. Or a joke, if they just play it off as a joke. Like, ha, you finally translated that thing after all these years. It said, female restroom. Don't do me any favors. I've had robots go missing on me before, you know. I will bear that in mind, Aliya. Shall we proceed? Press back to map. Ooh. That's where we are. And this... But... Is this all navigable? Does this game have a whole ass world map? Timeline of the Nebula. Oh my god. Oh. 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 Oh, look at it go. So the ancient time, the ancient empire, the holy empire, the dark age. Oh, the dark age was short, but recent. The dark age, if it's anything like real life, is implying some kind of lack of records or discontinuity. Well, there is like a thing where it's more complicated than that, like in real life. There's a very like Reddit atheist approach to history that implies that the Dark Age was this time of where religion completely took over and no technological advancement was made whatsoever, and we completely regressed and so on. And it's like that doesn't sound like it's a very accurate read of most of it, really. But the Dark Age implies something, some kind of discontinuity, some kind of break. Okay, so we have a very, very extensive history of the world that's up in the air. So that's going to be what we're trying to interrogate, I believe. What really threw me off is when I hit this D-pad. Like, I guess left is all and right is now. And so there's a real-time... What? Did it wrong? Okay, let's go scroll over here first, then go to now. Okay. So here's me getting here. I'm all the way there on the right. I can't even scroll that far over, actually. But it keeps track of the specificity of, like, okay, in the last 5 minutes, I returned to Iox. And, like, I can go back through, like, what was the last hour like? What was the last day like in real time? Like, it's hard to interpret how useful this part of the scale will necessarily be. Or even how you implement this mechanically. But there's a very much a thing being communicated here by the fact that, like, it's calling attention to the fact that now is not a separate, immovable, isolated thing from history. History and now are all one big continuity. So having it lead all the way to now is very interesting. Because there's a depending on what country you're in, like how old history is and how long it's been since it seemingly changed significantly, can feel like a distant thing. It can feel like history ended and now we're in a post-history society that is just the now, which has never been the case. And people probably just kind of generally thought that all along. This thing really keeps going back, doesn't it? But as somebody who lives in a relatively young country, there's a lot of stuff that you're taught in history classes that are themselves things that, like, your grandparents or great-grandparents were just around for. Like, there's you can close the gap. But it still inherently feels like the past and separate, despite the obvious connective tissue of just living memory still existing. That's an interesting screen. Why is Miari's room so far from everything? I imagine she enjoys her view of the tree, Aliya. I am sure it is most pleasing to her. The tree of knowledge, or so they call it. Each branch grows more branches. Tree planted unlocks. The tree is still there. The whole university centers around it. Iox. Sorry, I'm just gonna butcher pronunciation for a while until I have more voice-acted examples to go off of. I think they did just mention it earlier, but I did not instantly internalize it. So the crown of Iox is forged over 550 years ago. Like 100 years later, the tree is planted, and then 100 years later, the last emperor disappears. The followers establish power on Iox. The Loop Temple reestablished on Iox. The University of Iox is established. So this tree is 250 years older than the university that's built around it. The Grey Lady's Orphanage. Is that where I was from? See, if I highlight that specific... I don't think I can. I think I can only go to these spots. And not so much the other one. But going by her age, I'm thinking that she grew up in the Grey Lady's Orphanage. That's probably our childhood. There we go. Fix that real quick. Until you finally reach the sun. Wherever that is. I went outside the university grounds once, exploring. This is a very beautiful moon. You can tell it was once lush, fertile. There must have been huge forests, lakes, rivers. They're all but dry now. I suppose they cut down all the trees to make chairs. Or ships. What do you think of the sculpture? It has a pleasing balance to it. I agree. Miari must like it too. She has a model just like it on her desk. Maybe even the prototype.
I was 15 when Miari rescued me from the slums of Elbereth and brought me here. I'd never seen such luxury or such kindness.
The voice acting is extremely compressed. I don't think I need to make it the rest of the game quieter than it. It's extremely, extremely compressed, fairly loud. It even has a little bit of a hiss behind it where they didn't necessarily noise remove. It's the most overtly indie part of the game so far, I think.
I still don't know why she did it.
Professor Miari? Aliya, there you are. Come in. I came as soon as I got your message. You don't need to flatter me, Aliya. Nonetheless, I'm glad you came. I know your work is important to you. My work is important to everyone, Professor. Well, today it's important to me. You're our expert on history. Tell me what you make of this. It looks cheap. Very funny. It's priceless, of course. One of the scholars sent this brooch to me. Janiki Renba. Did you know him? Did? Look at the detail before I throw you out. I see them. Ancient markings. I know they're a hobby of yours, Aliya. But can you read them? She blew past that. The did seemed to imply that they died. I've never seen either of these groupings before. But the two words have some common elements. So they must have related meanings. Well, the eagle wing brooch. Friend or holy? We're just taking a swing for it right now. Something that's interesting is I did catch wind of the idea that apparently this game's very interesting to play again after you beat it, because then you understand the language, and so ever like the whole game, like a lot of the meaning of the narrative can change. Friend? Am I just going for it? Friend, beloved friend, or holy emperor? Those seem most connected, yeah. Holy emperor, meaning that this is like a denotation of a really significant person, or just beloved friend, someone that's significant to you, like the words group. This is a huge leap that I don't have much context for, obviously. Friend, beloved, but I'm only guessing. Professor, this friend of yours, if he's in love with you, I'm not sure how I can help. My friend, Aliya, has disappeared. He told me he was going to a moon called Mercy. I can't go hunting the Nebula for missing people, Aliya. But you can. That's what you do, isn't it? Find things? You're worried about him. He is important to me. And I don't know what he was doing out there. I'll see what I can dig up. Last heard on Mercy 23 days ago, apparently. Got a specific timeline here. Renba sails to Mercy 33 days ago, finds a brooch 27 days ago, sends it to Mayari 25 days ago, disappears 23 days ago, then calls me in now. Interesting. I can immediately see the skeleton of a game that people might compare heavily to Outer Wilds, and I'm starting to I'm trying to think, like, did I originally get this game on my radar because of Outer Wilds and people comparing it? Because it's got a similar. This is a bit of a leap because we've only slightly touched it, but it has the vibes of like this kind of like soft puzzle, which does not mean easy puzzle necessarily, but like the boundaries of the puzzles are less defined, and it's more about going around and gaining knowledge over the course of a playthrough, and then using that knowledge to actually solve the game, as opposed to literally being stuck in a portal chamber and having to solve that portal chamber right now to continue. There could be a lot of bouncing around and a lot of incomplete misunderstandings of things, and then that could be why the second playthrough is really different, and it also could make it one of those games you can never play again twice, which means this might be my warning from me to you, given that vibe, that you might want to play it yourself. If you find yourself getting interested in this game, you might want to stop and go play it the moment that feeling hits, because if it is that kind of you can only play it once kind of game, then you might realize too late that you've watched too much of me doing it. Get out of my office, you Eliborithian rat. And you're taking the robot with you. Come on, robot. We're not welcome here. You are not welcome, Aliya. Inscriptions. Ooh. I annoyed Miari. Be seeing you, Aliya. It doesn't seem to matter how I treat her, she still puts up with me. Honestly, for a lot of that, I was being relatively nice. I even was like, I avoided being like, how are you gonna pay me for this? What's my compensation? Like, there's a lot of moments where I'm like, nope, I'm just gonna be helpful, like a RPG protagonist. So they seem very easily annoyed. Given the level of, given the scale of the ask that they've assigned me, I feel like that's a them problem at some point. If I'm going this far out of my way to even potentially do, I might even, like, maybe even the entire events of this game might be on her behalf, but if not, some kind of like not interstellar, but like interplanetary quest is being done on her behalf. She is kind of, at the point she's indebted to me, unless there's a huge disparity in the other direction. It's just a lot to expect of someone. How do you feel that went, Aliya? Fine. It went fine. And will we go to Mercy, Aliya? What do you think? Professor Miari is my primary user. You might say I am biased. There, here's this again. That's the brooch. I missed this icon earlier and was trying to see what it triggered. Should we go down, Aliya? Would you recognize Renba if we saw him? Did you meet him? I believe he activated me, Aliya, after I was uncovered. I suspect that is why Professor Miari assigned me to you. You believe he activated you? I'm gonna take that as an implication that you meant yes. That you have seen him. You technically didn't say that. But I'm gonna take it that it's you believe he activated you and not you believe you'd recognize him. And can I just say, Mistress Aliya, it is wonderful to be accompanying you. Oh, yes? And why is that? I find humans fascinating. And you are very different to most here. I have only recently been activated. I'm calling you 6. 6, Mistress? I shall remember that. That was kind of a sad face. No. You know, I don't think I got the translation on this brooch quite right. The shape indicates it's an empire piece. So I'd expect the inscription to reflect that. Let's look at this some more. This is an interesting little reaction where it like weirdly glows like onto the screen and then it kind of fades away again. And then she talks again. Alright, so... No. Holy Beloved then? I pressed the wrong button. I think that's at least closer to it. Translate. I can go back to it. Okay. I didn't mean to press A quite like that. Holy Emperor. No more reaction. I might have blown it a little bit as far as the cutscene goes. But I'm wondering if the way that you interpret some of these individual things then might, when you encounter those symbols again, it might suggest what you previously put there. Like you would essentially probably like the inscription on the wall, for example, that we saw at the beginning of the game. I imagine when you find longer, more difficult inscriptions, it probably suggests what you have thought other things were in the past. And then you can judge from there in this new combination whether or not you can parse a new meaning or if something's wrong. And then that makes you probably go back and reassess what you assigned the meaning of previous things to be. Because the only way that this works is if repetition happens. Like the thing, I'm like inherently, I'm looking at this as a puzzle game. I'm like that brooch is not a one-off because there's no information with which to really translate it. You can't really come up with anything on the spot. You have no context for it, but it will probably tap into the wider context of the rest of the game. So these terms have to repeat in a variety of contexts to have you continually reassessing what you think it means. That does also mean this is going to be one of those shut the hell up playthroughs where shut the hell up. Shut the hell up. Because this is definitely the type of game where somebody could, where comments that choose to say anything helpful about the game could be massively ruining the experience for me if I see them, but I'm going to try to record ahead to minimize that. But also for other people that are trying to figure this out alongside us. If you know anything, you're not allowed to say it, because you're inherently spoiling the experience for other people. What did you call your first robot, human? Presumably, you did not call it one, unless you were already planning your robocidal spree. Why does it matter what I called it? It's long gone. It matters. Robots are ancient. We are unique and irreplaceable. Once unmade, we cannot be remade. We matter. Robots were created 1,500 years ago-ish? No one knows where or how. Somewhere distant. Approximately 1,500 years ago. Okay. It's interesting how quickly he turned around and he's now defending his own existence, or they're defending their own existence, when earlier I was being more curious and nice about robots. I assume that we're annoyed after that meeting or something, but she's being way more dismissive of them when I'm not having input currently. But when I had input, I was being curious and talkative with the robot. And like, I inherently am like, hey, this thing seems to be some kind of intelligence. I will talk to them like they're a person under that assumption and just work that out. That's how I deal with any sort of data style character that shows up, because I like them a lot. But now, like at the beginning, they were like, we are interchangeable. We do not have names. But now they're talking about being ancient and irreplaceable and that they matter, which is an interesting flip, but also not a contradictory one, because interchangeable and irreplaceable are not contradictions of each other. Like, because they are a finite group and they cannot be made. They're inherently valuable, even if they might all be like you could swap them out for each other and not care. But I feel like I would care 6. The little angry face? They do not look happy. I gave it a name. My first robot. I called it Tallinn. That is a girl's name on Elboreth. So what? I cannot imagine having a name. I cannot imagine it would matter, and yet I believe I feel the lack. What name would you like? I do not know. I will consider the matter. Oh, well, that turned into a deep frown into a little smile. That's nice. No. I've seen enough of Miari for today. Okay, so they're really restricted on where I can be. At the beginning of the game, when I was way up there, it walked me all the way up to the stairs, and then when I stopped at the top of the stairs, that was when I suddenly had gameplay control again. And then once I clicked the walk down the stairs prompt, it walks me all the way over here. So if you're wondering why I walked past all this stuff, it's because you actually can't control yourself in that area. That they're keeping me from wandering around too much over there, which means there must not be much going on there, I guess. 6? You were buried? Did they find you on Iox? Indeed, Aliya. They chipped me out of a wall. You're a pillar man! Oh no! So, created 1500 years ago, but awakened sometime in the last 3-ish years. That's a very wide margin there. 6 could have awoken 4 months ago or 3.5 years ago? You could just ask if you want to know. 6? How long were you buried here? I have no idea, Aliya. I do not remember it. Aliya, tell me, are you still wasting your time on your curious notions of history? Well, fuck you, man. History isn't mine. It belongs to everybody. Most of us are decent people, Aliya, and do not want it. What? You should devote yourself to a real science. Metallics, maybe. Loop philosophy. What? This dude. History is a science. It's the exploration of the past. Through evidence and theory. Honestly. Most people think you will not be content until you have unearthed your own skull. Good faith to you, Aliya. May the waters light your way. That little incidental conversation popping up was a surprise. Wow, screw that guy. Okay, so that's intriguing though. We're in a setting that does not value history as a concept, so we're weird for being into this. I really hate him. Understandable, Aliya. I'm just feeling out how the conversation stuff works. I think both of the replies have dried up. That last one I can only ellipses reply, not question reply, but I guess it's because I had a comment about that. So there's a little bit of forking, but it's not always clear what you're looking at. If Iox does not believe in history, what is it they think you do? Iox believes in the loop. They believe what has happened will happen again. They think I'm out discovering the future. That's confusing. That's a lot to unpack. There's Huang. Oh, she might not want to talk to him. That's interesting. What's he doing, 6? I believe he is reading. I'd best get this over with. Aliya. I didn't know you were back on Iox. I've pronounced it like 7 different ways at this point, I think. How are you, Huang? Well, well enough. I've been reading all day. I just came outside to rest my eyes, and there you were. Haha, a sight for sore eyes, get it? And now I have to go. Good faith to you, Huang. Before you depart, I found a line of ancient in the annals of Mezwai I thought you might like. If you have time, that is. Show me, and I'll let you know if I have time. The Chronicles of the Mazwai, written about 550 years ago. Mazwai was an ancient writer who documented the effects of the loop across the Nebula. Here, see what you think. Hello. So that... this is a goofy detail, but this is a long one. Let me think. So, the second word doesn't look like anything I've seen before. She keeps... it keeps throwing me off that it keeps bringing up the interface and then she interrupts over and over again, so it fades in and out. So here's a goofy detail. When it first appears each time, my controller vibrates the entire time. It's like 5 or 10 seconds straight of vibrating. It's really goofy. It's like the level of intensity. Holy. View phrase. Holy Emperor. Yeah, so it's currently vibrating because I went over to this thing. I chose this translation for a reason. Let's see if I can remember what it was. Do you wonder if you can skip these transitions a little bit? So, Empress. Let's take another look at this. She gave the interruptions. Alright, so this word looks like the word holy. I guess we're taking to be... She thinks that holy is related to Empress. Which is interesting because she's not correlating it to the word emperor. The other option is just friend, though. So maybe I should keep these tied to each other then. So Empress, buried or banished, rebels, robots, labors, and circuits. We could say buried the robots. It loops into the narrative we were discussing earlier. So it could be interesting to see if they're connected, but it could also just be a huge leap. Could be banished rebels. The doubt guy walked away. I don't think I can look at my timeline. I was trying to see whether or not the writing of this would line up with when the robots were buried. But the robots were buried 1500 years ago. I think they said that this was written 550 years ago, but that just means it could be about anything from the past, including 1,000 years ago. Let's say buried robots. Why not? Make the potential mistake of just implying it's whatever's in front of me. Circuits, circuit. Laborers, work. Robots, robot. Rebels, rebel. It's implying additional meaning in some of these, like a little bit of synonym in some of these cases to help you connect how messy the translation could be. Because symbol-based translations can be very... They can be less than specific. Like when people talk about how Japanese symbols translate and how interpretive it can get. Does Empress buried robots work? That's now, not when the thing was. Mazwai, there we go. Didn't mean to open this. I guess I don't understand this interface. I was trying to get to the Namazwai timeline again from earlier. But I thought there weren't any robots in the Empire. This suggests otherwise. Good faith to you. He's just gonna take off? Shall we proceed to your ship now? Have you sailed before, Six? I have no idea, mistress. But I am keen to find out. And so we left the hollowed walls of the university. I thought that was going to be voiced. What? Why'd this come up? I'm not sure. I don't think I pressed anything. It's gonna take me some time to figure out how to navigate that menu. It's a bit weird looking. Aboard the Nightingale. My ship is my refuge. It's the only place that's truly mine. The journey to Mercy should be quick, mistress. You think Miara's friend is in trouble? As I say, mistress. We should know shortly if we depart. What do you know about Mercy? Nothing. It is a moon of pigs and rice, mistress. Part of the Iox Protectorate, of course. Maybe Mercy will have a few ruins of its own. That seems unlikely. But it is not wealthy. Nonetheless, I will prepare the ropes. The ropes? Hello? It's where where Janaki told Professor. Why would he be visiting a rice farm? I could go there next. So a lot of the text auto proceeds, and here it seems to be going kind of fast. Eoxian space, sailing to Mercy in the Verdant Pass.
My Ari wanted us to sail to Maerzi. It was a short sail through fast waters.
Hello. Steer right momentarily, mistress. Oh, here. Oh, the triggers, not the bumpers. They look like bumpers because of the shape of the buttons. I see the force of the river is fastest in the middle, mistress. Like a real river. On the surface it appears the same, but there are deeper currents below. Oh, this is weird. It says navigating to Mercy. I assume that all the arrows say which path to take. The Verdant Pass. Because green! Oop. Oop. This is your ship, mistress. Oh, don't hit the rock. I call her the Nightingale. I found her in a ruined hall on Elbereth, covered in dust. She must have been someone's prized possession once. She's mine now. That's Mercy. You can see the greenery from here. I'm noticing a through line where the historian... Mercy, a farming town. If Renba's here, I need to find him. And if he's not, I need to work out where he went next. I'm noticing a through line where this historian character that's all about digging up the past is defensive or bristles at any question interrogating her own.
We stepped off the ship and into the mud. Mud covered the ground and rock. And everywhere I looked, things were growing from the mud. And some of those things had legs.
Look at this place. Breathe the air. I cannot breathe, mistress. And you are, as you are no doubt aware. Well then. Let's see where Renba's got to. If we're really lucky, he'll have found an old pot. Excited by the idea that they might just have writing anywhere, ever. So, where do we start? There is a series of rice terraces. If we climb up, away from the water, that should take us to the village. But there is no way I am crossing that, mistress. Robots cannot swim. The wood is strong enough, Six. Wood is a laughable substance to build floors from, mistress. It cannot be chewed through. It can be chewed through by mice. So can wires. Ooh, something scratched here. There's something scratched here. The emblem of Iox. I suppose this is where the Mercian leave goods for the Ioxians to collect. I can't see the emblem, though. Well, Joniki won't be hiding in there. That tithe barn was big. This moon produces a surplus, mistress. For what good it does them. Interesting. At first glance I was going to say those are sharp corners, but I guess it is ultimately... these are handmade pawns. It's all terraced on purpose. These are crazy to see. I love these old moons. With their ancient stories. Who is that, for instance? One of the older goddesses? She is guarding the fields. Evidently, over 1,500 years have passed since she was carved. So... Six is good at dating how long things have been around. That's a long time. Relative to what, exactly? There used to be gods throughout the Nebula. Even on Iox. Before the Empire was founded. I'm surprised that Iox let this one stay. What? I can go down here too? Okay. There's something here. A figurine carved from brass. Dating from the Holy Empire? This is the same goddess as the statue, of course. The base has been inscribed with glyphs, too. Ooh. Completionism. I doubt it's a single word. Ancient scribes didn't always trouble to put in their spaces. I don't think they expected their writing to be read. Interesting. Interesting bit of struggle here. Well, holy, or the word that we think is holy, perfectly fits in the first slot. And none of it else seems to quite match up. This is one of the closest ones. I don't think she said it was broken or anything, though, so it seems complete. Holy. Then we try to parse what's left. Let's see now. These glyphs look somewhat like my word for emperor. Do they? Okay, light and water makes sense. It looks like a waterfall or god beams. Holy light. I can still change my mind, but... Holy light? This comes from the same site as the brooch. The one Miara gave me on Iox. Having this should be useful in tracking down where these things originated. New site indicated. Indications of an unknown site somewhere in the cyclones? The brooch Miara gave me had come from somewhere out in the winds of the Nebula. The site that Remba had somehow found. Perhaps he was still down there. I don't know enough to find this site yet. Well, maybe we'll find him here and he'll point me there, but I'm thinking that this is going to be a thing where my mission's to find him, and I'm thinking that we're going to find out that we can't. I think we're going to find out that he went to that site. So in trying to find him, we'll be finding that thing too. I was not expecting to be so immediately rewarded by wandering so far off the path. Ah, there are boundaries, though. It's a little goofy. But that was cool. It is a long enough path that does have me wondering if there's a run button. I started pressing every button for a bit there. I wonder how much this is like real life. Where every interpretation I'm putting in, I'm just kind of guessing on the fly, and then just moving on, and then seeing if it'll add up later. And then when it doesn't, reassessing why it doesn't. Can you do a scan for Janiki or something? Mistress has mistaken me for a dog. Perhaps you believe if I had a scrap of clothing, then I could trace his scent. Can you do that? Trace a scent? No, mistress. If I see him, I will let you know. She was so confident that she could send him to look for a trace. Ooh, that's slightly awkward. Those rice patty spots or whatever they are.
The air smelled earthy and sweet.
Okay, she is startlingly loud. It seems like the squares around them don't interact with, like, the haze. It's like the haze over all the graphics right now are, like, cut off by that. Oh, I missed the dialogue. Fucking... That's why I gotta pause more. Yeah, when we were at the distant camera, the squares around them looked kind of odd, and it seemed clear that the haze wasn't working. This moon seems most poor to me. There are no proper buildings. There is mud everywhere. You've grown soft on Iox. This is normal. Good, even. These people have everything they need. I have never left Iox before, mistress. To me, this place seems barbaric. They have plenty to eat. That's a good start. I did not intend to give offense, mistress. I am sorry if I did. Forget it, 6. Just maybe keep your voice down a little. I can't think why they keep giving me robots. Every time I break or lose one, they give me another. It's like they're trying to get rid of them. The university cares for your well-being, mistress. Wait, so this... I was wondering about that, like, the Robo Massacre, or whatever line he said. I was like, what do they mean by that? And it's like, oh... It's not just that she's ever had 6 robots in her history, but, like, specifically, they keep giving her robots and she keeps losing all of them, or them being destroyed. She dominates everything. Elbereth has a statue like that, sort of. Just a pair of feet. Iox must approve. Although I understood they had destroyed similar statues in other moons. I suppose there's nothing old here. No ruins, no ancient kings. No crumbled towers. Of course not, mistress. This is a farmyard. This is a waste of my time. That's what it is. Remba's probably back on Iox again right now. Professor Miari would have contacted me if this was the case, mistress. He is out here. Somewhere. Waiting. Interesting. Just the presupposition that nothing old is around. Just makes you wonder. Look at this thing. It kind of implies they're getting rid of anything old because they're so uninterested in history inherently. Where is she from? From the material, I would judge it was not quarried here, but most likely close by. It's very big, you understand. Beautifully crafted. I've never understood Professor Miari. You know she brought me to Iox from an orphanage on Elbereth? Now she keeps giving me robots when I keep losing them. I really don't know what she gets out of it. Perhaps she likes to be kind, mistress. Miari? Kind? Have you met her? She's strong. She's principled. She's organized. She's fair. And she's as kind as a thunderstorm. Not a fan, I take it. Something's carved here. Symbols. In the ancient script. I might be able to translate them. That seems like a river. Holy water goddess? Because she's by the river. Snake, death snake heart. No crop related one. That definitely looks like a river to me. If that means holy, then this could be goddess. Holy water goddess. There's certainly plenty of water here. She's guarding their most precious resource. Keeping it all fertile. Honestly, one of my more reasonable conclusions to draw so far. We'll see if that one changes later or not. Alright, well this is intriguing. No one can accuse this of being too similar to anything I've played before, and that's always a fun experience. I'll see you guys next time.